Hello everyone, it's episode 7 of FPL BlackBox. How are we all doing? The international break is nearly over and we've got a bit of a treat for you because you might notice we've got the man, the myth, the legend himself. It's Granville in the house, and I have to say it's very weird me introducing you, Granville, and you, of course, Mark, because back in the day you were both introducing me when I did my first.
It's like role reversal, isn't it?
I know, it's weird. How are you both?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. I'm Mark. Welcome to Blackbox episode 7. And yes, we're joined by Granville. Granville, it's been, I think we found out recently, it's been 10 years since we appeared together on that first episode of the Scoutcast. Welcome to Blackbox. Have you been watching what me and Az have been up to?
Yeah, I have actually. Thanks for the introduction, Az. I says to Mark, we're going to kick you out shortly.
Yeah, no, it's my last
your traditional Scoutcast. But no, I've been all right actually. I haven't actually been on. The last time I did a podcast was the first week of last season, and it was a famous episode, the record equaling. Last of the Summer Wine episode.
Oh yeah, as you rose from the seat to the music. Oh, that was great. Yeah.
Was it? I was a bit embarrassed. I didn't play that one back. Sometimes when you're editing and stuff, you do have to play them back, and sometimes there's bits that you do cringe at. Did I really say that? But no, I think that would have been a bit of a cringe moment for me.
It was
there are people, of course, Granville, who won't know who you are. So I've got a clip from the very first episode of the Scoutcast that we did, the pilot episode. So just to explain to the folks, myself and Granville started the Fantasy Football Scout podcast 10 years ago on the 15th of November 2010. And I think it was the first FPL podcast in existence.
Sure.
No one was doing it. I think there was a Yahoo fantasy game podcast back then. And we've got I'm going to play the intro to that first episode. I'm going to have mute our mics and then play this clip, just so everyone can hear how young and innocent we sounded back in the day. So I'm going to mute us and then play the clip. Hello there, and welcome to the very first Fantasy Football Scout podcast. Those of you who visited the site before have probably guessed my name's Mark. I'm going to be the host for the podcast. What you probably don't know, though, is I'm here with my co-host, Granville, who you may have seen about on the boards. You probably thought he was just a regular poster. He's not. He's actually my arch nemesis in fantasy terms. How you feeling, Lee?
Yeah, I'm on a bit of a downer after Sunday, 4:30. Something happened. It made me feel really horrible.
Yeah, it was me getting those points from Ireland's goals, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There we go. That was our dulcet tones from 10 years ago. Even I sound younger. How do you think? What's your memories of that first Scoutcast episode, Granville?
I remember I was over prepared for it in a way. So I had loads of things written down.
Unlike this one.
You did have notes, yeah.
After that first one, I winged it all the way through. But no, we always had notes. And if I remember, we used to write the notes, but they used to arrive about 5 minutes before the podcast.
Pointless.
So we'd always, yeah. But the first one, I honestly don't remember it. I remember the room, but I kind of remember those first ones. I remember us sitting at a table in the studio doing it, and then I think we moved about to different parts of the studio. But no, fond memories, I guess. But,
it must be crazy seeing like what it's become now when there's so many different podcasts like Fantasy Black. Because I mean that season was like, I mean the 2008 season was the first year I played, and there was easily less than 1 million players.
Yeah,
probably was there even 500,000? I don't really remember, but I just remember I was in a work league and I just really wanted to beat one of the people I work with, so I typed in fantasy football tips. And then Scout came up, and then obviously the Scoutcast started probably a year after that, was it, Mark? Or
yeah, it's about a year and a half after.
Year and a half after that. So yeah, it was the first thing I listened to back in the day. It definitely had a role in how big everything's got now. I think that show.
Yeah,
there's tons of them now.
You
look on Twitter, somebody else is doing their own show, and so it's great to know that you were sort of pioneers. I mean, it was very amateurish what we did, but we were just like two blokes just talking, like we're in the pub just talking about fantasy football, and probably no one had heard it before. Obviously, things have been professionalised since then, As it's become more professional, that's where I've become less interested. But still, I'm happy to I was happy to be part of that, and I'm happy to do this.
Well, I was your stand-in, Granville. I think when I first started doing the Scoutcast was because you were I think you were still massively involved, but because you were doing the politics side, you were kind of often doing that. So I think I got asked by Joe to come in because you couldn't make an episode, and then when you couldn't do it, I was doing it more, and then I kind of. Yeah, then you stopped.
So you basically took my job.
Yeah, I'm basically Granville too.
And look at it now. Look, and what's also worth knowing for the listener as well is Granville had a bigger influence than that, because I played fantasy football 20 odd years ago out of the newspapers. Then I packed up, and then I went to join the Creative Assembly, which is where both Granville and I work now. But I joined, and when I joined, I noticed there was a fantasy football league going on at the company, and we had this forum, internal intranet forum, and this guy called Granville was really mouthy on there, really kind of quite arrogant, and I thought, who is this guy?
Like
yeah, I know, who is this guy? I've got to start playing fantasy football again. And I remember going over to a fella's desk and saying, who's this Granville guy? And you stood up, Lee, and you said, it's me, because Granville's name that he uses is Lee, and I knew him as Lee, I didn't know him as Granville. And so the rivalry between myself and Granville at that time actually made me create Fantasy Football Scout. It made me play fantasy football again. And from then on, it just set in, and I created the website, and that's, the rest is history. So Granville is the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, it's all down to Granville.
When we first started, we weren't playing. I mean, I certainly wasn't playing Fantasy Premier League. I started playing the Telegraph game. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And and within the first couple of weeks, I was like 11th or something in the world.
I don't remember that. That has slipped my mind completely.
This is so easy. I'm going to carry on. It's like, when you have your first bets and you win.
Yeah.
And you all of a sudden you're hooked to it. Oh, it's going to be dead easy. I'll throw 10, 100 quid, and then you start realising it's not quite as easy as you thought. So yeah, and actually, funny enough, my best season was my first season. So there you go. It's a good example of that. Beginner's luck, or I never hit those heights since. But maybe it's also down to a few less players as well.
Well, I mean,
let's be honest about it. So there's so much to talk about the podcast. I mean, for a start, we mentioned that they were terribly organised. I mean, I blame Mark 100% for that. It's like last week when I didn't come onto the podcast. That was his fault as well.
Yeah,
although he blamed you.
Thank you.
We'd turn up. He wouldn't have his microphone. He wouldn't have his leads. His laptop would be on the blink, or it'd be the battery had gone. And then we had the thing where the loser of the week would sit in the comfortable chair.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. There was one comfortable chair, and the game week winner got to sit in that every time.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'd rib the other person about, how's that chair feeling? A little bit harder. And then I'd rib you probably weekly about your love for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Only because I think when I first met you, you were always talking about Arsenal in glowing terms, and you tip them almost every year for the league.
Yeah.
And they were at the stage where they were playing some nice football, but never really cut it. They never really had the gift of winning enough games, and you just admire them. I think because I don't know, I don't know why, but I remember giving you a gift because we had some Christmas podcasts where we swapped gifts.
Yeah.
And one of them, I gave you an Arsenal mug.
Yeah.
And I think you gave me back some clean sheets.
I gave you a clean sheet. Yeah. Well, actually, I remember the best Christmas present I bought you was inadvertently. You were beating me one season, and I thought, he's not used to such great height. So I bought you a DVD of Vertigo, thinking you'd laugh about it. When you unwrapped it, you said, that's my favourite film. And you were serious, so the whole gift backfired. I was like, you're meant to be pissed off. And actually, you were actually quite pleased with that present because you didn't have it on DVD.
Yeah, well, I think I did have it on DVD, but it was just, it was just amazing because it is genuinely my favourite film.
Completely backfired.
And so it did backfire. But I bought you in that year, I think I bought you the Ten Commandments with Victor Moses climbing Mount Sinai.
Victor Moses, there's a blast.
Because Victor Moses was one of your. I mean, you have several players who you kind of went weak at the knees at, and he was one of them. And I think what's his name for Portsmouth? I can't remember. There's Taylor.
Matt Taylor.
Matt Taylor. Yeah. There was quite a few. You had Stephen Ireland was one of them.
Yeah.
and he came up
He's
before.
mentioned in that first.
I think
podcast.
I think it was I think it might have been the first. Well, it would have been the second year we played. I think second or third year, and you were racking up the points to Stephen Ireland, and I just wouldn't get him. I think I just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't like him, and I remember once being in it was like a shop somewhere, and it was on a Saturday afternoon, and the games were playing, and I went to the shop, and there was a game playing in the background. It was a City game, and whilst I was in there, Stephen Ireland scored, and I went.
It still happens now, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I know. Well, it does. So it's plenty of it. And then on the podcast we had Fancy Island Risks, where we had I don't know if they still do it now, but basically you take a sort of a differential and you take him to a fancy island. It's a bit dodgy, really, isn't it, when you think about it? Taking a player to a fancy island on your own. But anyway,
Depends who it is.
Yeah. And I remember once bringing Lee Bowyer and David Batty, so I could see them fighting.
You'd never have them on an island, would you?
No, but it was just to see them, the entertainment of seeing them fight on the beach, because they just had a scrap they were teammates, weren't they? And they just had a scrap on the field.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, as Bowyer and Kieran Dyer.
The full John
was it Dyer or was it? Oh, I thought it was Batty, but
no, it was.
I thought it was Batty. It was Dyer, was it? Okay.
And there was a machine guy who came on every now and then.
Well, he was the guy who came up with Rate My Team, which is still going now. That was formed there. Shall we bring it up to date anyway? Shall we bring it up to FPL, because you're having a blinding season, which is why you're on as well. Because look at the ranks there; it's the first six-figure rank on the history of BlackBox. Az, look,
no wonder he wants to come on.
Yeah.
Well, I had a 5-figure rank last week.
Did you?
Yeah, and that's why I was really disappointed that you didn't get me on. I mean, I think it was just you a bit. I don't. Maybe you didn't want me to come on because I had a higher rank than you.
Yeah, that's it.
So you invited Luke instead. Sorry, Luke. I mean, I've actually been trolling Luke a bit. I think he got a bit annoyed with it.
We'll get Luke on every week if that.
Yeah.
sorry.
But yeah, it's just how it goes. I don't know. I think what is it about this season? I mean, I think what further proof do you need that it's all about luck?
Before we talk about your rank, though, Granville, can we please talk about your transfers? Because your transfers last week.
Let's bring them up. Let's bring them up here.
Absolutely fantastic.
Game week 4 transfers. This is history in the making. I mean, this is the Granville I know and love, isn't it? Watkins out and Rodriguez out for Jimenez and Souček, which on paper looks all right, but you wouldn't get rid of Rodriguez, would you? And Watkins, you gave him what? Rodriguez, you gave him 1 game week. Game week. Tell us, come on, justify
you got me on here to explain myself.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I will do. Okay, so the aim of last week was to get Jimenez in. And I just felt that I had to get him in because Fulham with Dyer, shipping in goals. And I just felt, a lot of other people got him in. I just felt that I needed to get him in. So how do you get him in? And Watkins had come off 2 games with no goal. He played against Fulham, probably the worst defence of the league, and didn't look good. He looked quite weak, actually, on the ball. Sorry, you don't do that. Because
I don't agree with that.
This is all in hindsight. Right, okay, without hindsight, tell me what I should have done to get Jimenez in, because the only options were... I had to release money from my midfield somewhere, and the only other options were losing De Bruyne, which I wouldn't have done. Fernandes, I mean, you may argue that you could have got rid of him, but we know about penalties this season. Salah, I'm not going to lose him. So those are the only options, really.
My question would be, why were you so set on Jimenez?
Yeah, well, that's it's a good question. Why was I?
But I mean, there's one thing getting Jimenez, I can understand it. But if your only option is selling James Rodriguez in the form he's in, surely that...
Yeah, that's a crazy one.
That can't have felt good.
No.
Okay, right. Bear in mind that I had 3 Everton players already. Okay. And if we talk about coverage, there is coverage there with Calvert-Lewin.
Az hates that word.
Okay, all right. And the other thing, he'd actually come off a blank as well. As had Watkins.
One blank.
Listen, people were talking on the site about, he's only going to be good at assisting the assister.
Yeah,
in that game, he did do a little bit of that. So I just felt that I needed to get Jimenez, and he was the only option. The other option, I guess, was Alexander-Arnold, but he's so attacking. A lot of this is being said in hindsight. We know what happened to Liverpool. We know what happened to United. Those were extraordinary results. And Listen, I made a Rick, but
I mean, I've been doing the Ross with the Smooths on Scoutcast for like 3 years now, and I honestly, I don't think I've ever seen one as bad as that. I
don't think in all the years I played.
No,
I'm pretty sure I haven't had anything.
What was the point swing, Granville? How many points?
36.
36.
I mean, do you think I'm at the top now? Actually, I'm second in the Contributors League. I'm second by 1 point, which is disappointing coming on this and only being second. But no, had I not made those, I'd be absolutely flying. But so I said to someone the other day, I says like, I would have been on a breakaway rather than being back in the peloton again. So I mean, it's one of them things.
I don't understand why it wasn't blatantly obvious that Watkins was going to get a hat-trick and a 7-2 victory over Liverpool. I mean, how did you not see that happen?
And everyone was saying it on the side, on the Fantasy Football Scout side.
That's what we do on Blackbox. We know with hindsight that Watkins got a hat-trick, so we know it was a bad move. So,
what do you make of that? I do believe when I did see that game against Fulham, it just didn't look at it. I think there's a lot of games this season. I know we're going to talk about what's happened this season because it's absolutely mad. Is that these big scorers this week over this season have come against really you didn't expect it. You didn't expect United to ship 6 in a game, Liverpool to ship 7 in the game, and City to ship 5, and all those caught us on the hop. But I think it was a lot of it was just naive defending. It wasn't. They just weren't normal games. So I'm not sure if Watkins is going to continue scoring hat-tricks every week.
Of course not. No.
But whether he's going to be in a team which, Villa haven't been that creative. Let's be honest, before that game, they weren't. I mean, I know they beat Fulham quite comfortably, but I think they were playing Fulham. I don't know. It's really hard to read this season. We've only had 4 game weeks, and so much has happened.
Well, this is the thing. The point we've been making in previous weeks is it's such a crazy season, and we look back at the data last week behind it, and the XG data suggests it can't continue. And I think the point I made last week is that with so much uncertainty, it's no wonder we've seen wildcards in game weeks 2, 3, and 4 struggle. And so, people who played their wildcard now between 4 and 5, maybe they'll suffer as well. But I kind of hope not. I kind of hope we get some normality in that. A team that you'd pick from scratch now would do well in game week 5. But I guess we're going to find out. But up until now, we haven't been able to do it. So it's really made me petrified about playing the wildcard, even though I hadn't had a brilliant start.
Well, I started game week 2 as the earliest I've played it. And I played it because I made mistakes in game week 1. I picked a side where I only had 9 out in the first week because I picked players which I was stupid to leave in. I didn't. To be fair, I didn't really give myself much time to change it. I didn't really follow the football that much at the beginning of the season, so it was just very, very quick. And I put in. I mean, I had Pulisic in there, had Gordon, with Everton. For some reason, I thought he was going to, because he was played at the end of last season, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So
we talked about it in pre-season. Yeah.
Yeah. So I sort of missed that one. And then I was thinking, well, I need a 4 million defender. Who am I going to get? And I thought, well, he probably won't play, but I'll just get Braithwaite. And there was it was obviously better option. So I looked at it and I just thought, I don't like what I'm looking at here. I'm just going to play the wild card. I was thinking, well, I'm going to play. I've quite often played it in game week 3. I just thought, why am I waiting? I'll just do it now. And actually, it's paid dividends because I got in players that I needed to get in. There was enough data, believe it or not, in game week 1 to see what was happening, and actually was actually proven over the next couple of game weeks. So. I think it's really difficult to read this season.
Of course.
And I don't think it's any surprise, actually. And I'm surprised that people are surprised that it's so that it's different to any other season because with no pre-season. I mean, people got worries about things that are greater than football. Players included, players picking up COVID, no fans.
It feels a little bit like kind of pick the players that you kind of want and not worry as much as we might have done previously about the fixtures. Because I put that in kind of an article I did last week. And when you look at someone like Pulisic, I mean, United away next week, you might think, oh, maybe I can hold off on that transfer until after that. But really, I'm thinking, well, if Chelsea are going to go at them and like Spurs did, there's no reason why to wait. And I don't think there's any Liverpool and City to me were always, they were so far above everyone else the last few seasons. It was kind of like, well, if the player's playing one of those two, then that's a bit worrying. But now it's like, play them, captain them. Like Calvert-Lewin's a captain option against Liverpool. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Never would have thought that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, I'm a fixtures over form guy normally. And we're going to start. I mean, let's look at the next 6 fixtures because that's what we're doing. We're looking forward in this episode of Black Box. We look back in the last one. So, I mean, what I've got here is the fixture ticker for the next 6. And what you're saying there, Az, is, you know, how much stock should we put in these fixtures given what we've seen so far?
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, I you know, it's always been my thing where, you know, fixtures breeds form. So if you've got a player who you know is quality and proven, they've got a good run of games, you think, well, I'm going to bring them in, hope they hit form and tap into it. But now, I don't know. I don't know if it's as important as it isn't. I mean, obviously it's early in the season, but teams just look more vulnerable in general. So if I'm looking at form statistics and I'm looking at fixture statistics, I'm much more likely to back the form player now than someone who's got good fixtures than I would have been previously. So that's the kind of one I'm looking at. I think the exception for me probably is with West Brom, Fulham and Burnley. I think Burnley typically have been solid, but they've had an awful transfer window. They're conceding goals all over the place. I wonder how long Dyche has got there. I mean, Joe said it quite well on the Scoutcast the other day. He said they looked to him like Bournemouth did, like just out of ideas, done. Like, you know, they just look kind of destined to go down. Yeah. And you look at Fulham and you look at West Brom and the players they've got, and you think, okay, these kind of are the whipping boys, if you like to call them. But everyone else, like West Ham. I mean, what are West Ham doing? Why are they winning games like 4-0? I thought they were going to have no points at this stage of the season, and now they're playing Spurs, and actually I think they could get something out of that game.
Yeah, I mean, you say about form, but that's difficult as well because you had a situation where Leicester went to Man City and turned them over, and then they played West Ham at home and got turned over by West Ham. So it's easy. It's not easy to read form either yet, is it?
Yeah.
And you think that there's quite a few teams. It's not just West Ham, Villa, Brighton, Leeds. They've all kind of got new teams or they're new to the league, and they've provided a freshness to these games. I mean, as I say, there's this underlying thing where it's just an unusual season, and you're just going to get unusual results. But can you look at fixtures? Can you look at form? It's the same. I think it's the same problem actually. I think I fell for the fixtures because Wolves were playing Fulham, and I thought it needed Jimenez, but they were really poor actually. Wolves. They didn't look like they were ever going to score more than one goal. And yet, I mean, Wolves had some decent form against City. They looked quite good against City, but then the next 2 games they're quite dire. They just look like a sort of team that's trying to gel. There's so many new players. It's a bit like Chelsea. So many new players, so many new toys for the manager to play with that he's not sure which is his first team yet.
Well, the thing is, I think Doherty and Johnny were so key to the way they set up and the way they played. When they lost those 2 players, I did worry about it, and it didn't look a problem at Sheffield United, and when they played City, they really looked quality. So I wasn't worried about it. And then next 2, they've really struggled. I mean, their fixtures to come. You got Jimenez in for a reason, and so did I. They've still got Leeds away,
Fulham and Leeds,
and Newcastle, Crystal Palace after that at home. So the next 3 game weeks are really strong. But then, I mean, let's look at the ticker on top of the pile there, and this is for attack. This is basically rated on the probability of getting goals against their opponents. Crystal Palace are top.
Teams at the top.
Well, I mean, you've got Crystal Palace at the top, West Brom and Fulham, then United. So arguably, I mean, I wouldn't say Palace are in a bad state, and I think we're going to look at them in a minute, and a couple of players in particular. But West Brom and Fulham.
Attack-wise, would you back Fulham to score many goals?
This is it.
What they're about, is it?
No, you're not going to see anything from Fulham. West Brom, I mean, you got Pereira. Do you look at that and think, well, that's his ticket to stay in your team?
Well, I look at Pereira and I think, the fixtures are quite good. He's done okay for me so far. 10 points against Everton, an assist against Chelsea. Like he's done enough for a 6 million midfielder. But then you look at some of the stats about their expected goals and just how poorly West Brom have been so far, and you think, okay, he's the main man, but main man of what? A seemingly doomed and relegated side. So it is a bit of a concern, but I think any team, if you are looking at fixtures, I think any team with Burnley and Fulham in 2 of the next 3 isn't a bad option, because I do think that those 2 teams are going to be comfortably beaten by a lot. I don't see much fight.
Yeah.
Be interesting to what Loftus-Cheek does at Fulham.
Yeah, and I like the odd. Lookman looked good as well when he came on at Wolves. I think he's a player that could do bits. I mean, I think he's 5 million, so he could be an option, but it's going to take a lot for us to look at the Fulham attack or the West Brom attack. I mean, West Brom look like they're going to get Grant from Huddersfield, who's been in the Premier League before, looked all right. He could do something. But I mean, Palace is the team that I want to talk about. Let's look at the defence as well, because Palace are top of that. I mean, they've got Brighton, Fulham, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley and Newcastle in the next 6. So they're top of both the attacking tickers and the defensive tickers. So they're tipped to, score some goals and keep some clean sheets. Clean sheets, remember those? And I mean, the 2 players that I want to talk about are Wilfried Zaha and Patrick Van Aanholt. Now, I heard you talk about Van Aanholt in last night's Scoutcast as because he was Joe's differential.
Fantasy Island Risk.
Yeah, he's Fantasy Island Risk. And he's a player which I always look at every season when they have easier opponents. And we're going to look at some data in a minute which proves that, basically. I mean, let's first of all look at Palace's team data, though, because before we get carried away by Palace as a prospect, look at this. I mean, Crystal Palace, in terms of their minutes per big chance, minutes per chance, and minutes per XG, they're right down the bottom. I mean, 18th for minutes per XG, 18th for minutes per chance, and minutes per big chance, they're 15th. So, their attack,
That's not what they're about, is it? They frustrate teams, they make it hard, they sometimes get beaten quite comfortably, but a lot of the time they win 1-0 or get a good draw, even against the top side. So I don't think it's that surprising.
What is surprising, their defence, though. Look, minutes per XG conceded, they're 16th for that. They're 15th for minutes per big chance conceded, and they're 15th for minutes per chance. So their defence hasn't looked good either.
Boys.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. But they do have these 2 players, Van Aanholt and Wilfried Zaha. And as I said, I always look at Van Aanholt when the fixtures are good. And I wanted to look back at the data to see whether there was anything in that. And there was. I mean, if you look at it last season versus the Big 7, so that's the Big 6 plus Leicester. I included Leicester in there, given that they won the title and they're figuring in the top 4. When you look at that, clean sheets, didn't keep a clean sheet against the Big 7, but they kept 8 against the rest of the teams. Goals about even, 1 against the Big 7, 2 versus the rest, 1 assist against the Big 7, 1 versus the rest. But look at this, minutes per goal involvement, almost 100% better. 977 minutes per goal involvement against the Big 7, 353 versus the rest. But look at the points as well. Points per game, Van Aanholt averages 5 points per game versus the rest, and only 2 points per game versus the Big 7. It's clear from that when there are good fixtures, Van Aanholt is a player to look at. I think he could do things. I think that, and you talked about him on the Scoutcast, and you didn't think he was going to be on penalties or free kicks. I think he will be. I think there's a chance. Do you not see that as?
Well, he's got Ayew and Zaha. Zaha's taken one already this season. Ayew was taking them last year, I believe.
But I think Van Aanholt took a penalty when Zaha was on the pitch last season. And he can take free kicks as well. So I think there might be something in it. But what about you, Granville? Are you a PVA fan?
Yeah, when I'm putting up wallpapers.
That's about it.
But well, he hasn't played a minute yet, has he, this season?
Not yet. No. But he is officially back.
Right, okay.
According to...
So you're talking about lumping on a player who hasn't played a game yet, coming in, starting immediately. I don't know. I think
for a team 16th on the expected goal.
It seems like a little bit of a risk, that Mark.
Yeah, I wouldn't lump on him. But the thing is, Palace's fixtures aren't just good for the next 6. They're actually
5.4.
He's 5.4.
It's that point 1. That's what's attracting you, isn't it? That point 1 that he's dropped. You're thinking, "Ooh, there's some value there."
No,
he was 5.5. Everyone else has got him for 5.5. The 0.1, he's got 0.1% ownership.
No, it's not. It's more that I know every year he does well against. When the opposition are weaker, he does well. And they've got good fixtures up to about game week 13, so I wouldn't get him yet. No.
Is he sure to play, though? Is he sure to start?
Well, that's it. We don't know.
I can't believe I've listened to Joe last night go on about Van Aanholt, and I think, oh, thank God I'm not going to listen to him go on about him again. And now we are, on Wednesday, Van Aanholt again.
Ridiculous. We put a stop to that.
I agree with you.
All right, fine.
100%.
Fine, you're not buying him.
Let's talk about Zaha.
Yeah, let's go about Zaha. Now, he's not. I thought he would be a flat track bully as well, but he's not. Points per game, 3 against the big 7, 3 versus the rest, and minutes per XGI exactly the same. So basically, he doesn't perform better against weaker opposition based on last season.
I'll tell you who
data.
he does perform well against.
Go on.
Brighton. If
Yes.
you've got Zaha in
Yes.
your team, captain him this week against Brighton because he always finds a way to score.
And look at this as
Every
well,
time.
right? This is Zaha's improvement.
Can't stand him.
This is his stats this season compared to last. Now, he's playing up front, of course, and that's the big thing. Is he going to carry on playing up front? Because if he does, this suggests that he could do well over this period. Like his minutes per shot compared to last season down to 36 from 54. Minutes per chance created down from 72 from 91. Basically, everything is up on last season. So he's improved in all areas. Goal involvement, he's been involved in 60% of their goals so far. While he's up front, I think Zaha could be a prospect.
Did you see? There's still Percy mentions it in the chat. Did you see Zaha? Remember someone messaged Maximan a few weeks ago and said, "Should I put you in my fantasy team?" He was like, "Yes." Someone messaged Zaha and was like, "Should I put you in my team?" And Zaha went, "No."
Yeah, what's that about?
What's that about?
I know, I couldn't believe that either. I was like, is that because he can't be asked to answer it? I just didn't get that at all.
He strikes me as the exact type of person that would want people to put him in the fantasy team.
Yeah.
He's got that kind of swagger, that arrogance to him. I love that.
And the thing is, just as that charmed me into having Sam Maximin at the start of the season, that actually puts me off Zaha now.
Yeah.
What about Zaha, Granville?
At 7.2, there's quite a few players in that mid price. Dare I say it, Rodriguez, but there's Grealish. You got what's he 7?
He's 7-1 now.
7-1. There's so many options, and just because he's playing up front doesn't mean he's going to get many more points. I think I also look back at Palace's fixtures. We've only had 4 games. Don't forget, they played against a United side which hadn't had just come off the beach, just didn't look ready to even start the season. What was the second game? Against Everton, where I guess they were a bit unlucky actually against Everton. They played well in that first half. And then what was and then they got murdered to Chelsea. So there is no great form coming into this game. We're not looking at you say we don't really care about form this year. We're only looking at teams that they played last season. Well, I don't know. I just think everything is so up in the air at the minute. Last season doesn't make any difference to any. Yeah. It has no relevance. to this season. And. Yeah, I think that's more. That's just something that you've got in your mind. I bet he hasn't got as good a record against Brighton as he has against some other teams. It's just, is it not because they're your team and you always think that he scores against you?
Maybe.
Or is there something in that?
I think he does. I think it was in one of those things I saw online. It's like who's the biggest goal scorer against your club, and I think Zaha does feature in it. I hate Zaha. I hate him for that reason, that he always scores in flying. But I also hate him as an FPL option because he's one of those players who's the exact opposite of what I want in my team. And he's exactly... when I slated Willian a few years ago, it was because he's obviously a good player, obviously a talented player, but just never actually does that well, FPL-wise. I mean, Zaha's best points tally ever was 143 in 2018-19. Got 10 goals and 11 assists. Okay, that's a decent return. He hasn't hit 10 goals in any other season he's been in the Premier League. Last season he got 4 goals.
But he's going to beat that. I mean, this data here shows that he's got every chance of beating that. He's going to hit. I think if he stays up front, it's double figures, definitely.
But one more goal to draw with 4. But I just don't trust him at all.
I mean, how many games has he played there? 33, 32, 29, 40, 25. So he's not ever present. That's the problem. That's another problem with him.
Yeah.
He's going to pick up an injury. Well, he has done over the last 5 years at some point. So you're not going to get 38 games out of him. So
going back to the fixtures, then no Palace. Then, even though they're top of the ticker, they've got fixtures good up until 13. We don't. So basically, what we're saying is this fixture data gives us very little to go on because we're not going to look at Palace. We're not going to look at West Brom. We're not going to look at Fulham. We're not looking at United, are we, at the moment? I mean, this is it. I mean, we started the season planning how we were going to get Rashford, Fernandes and Martial in. Now they're not even. I mean, wildcarders aren't looking at them, are they?
But United's a funny one because they're high on the ticker. But I mean, Newcastle away isn't that easy. They can frustrate. And then Chelsea, Arsenal, Everton. I don't particularly like United playing any of those three games. Obviously, then West Brom away, but then Southampton have been, looking a bit better. It depends. I think the Chelsea game is going to be interesting to Southampton because it will see if they can actually defend against a side that likes to play with a bit of pace rather than getting clean sheets against, Burnley and looking half decent against West Brom. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do against Chelsea, but. Right up until game week 9, I'm not really loving those.
No, and I think it's the Newcastle and the West Brom fixtures because certainly the West Brom. Anyone who's got West Brom and Fulham are high up in the ticker there because of
blows up
for obvious reasons. Now, if you look below that, we've got Everton, who we're already invested in. But let's talk about Spurs because that's a team that everyone's going mad about at the moment. Wild cards are being played to capitalise on Spurs' goal scoring form, and their next 4 is undeniable: West Ham, Burnley, Brighton, and West Brom. Granville, are you looking at Spurs? I mean, your wild card's gone, so you can't do that. What are you doing about Spurs?
Well, you have to look at Son, but because he's been consistent over the last 3 seasons. But you look at this season and the scores that he's got. He's had 2 massive games, and Kane. They just had 2 games which have been kind of wild west. It's just been crazy games.
Wild West.
Where they've been able to get in behind them and unload. I mean, and the thing is, they've scored off almost every chance as well.
Yeah.
Although at United, some did miss one, but it's just United were just incredibly naive. Again, they're just not ready for the season, and you saw that against Brighton as well. And then the game against Southampton was just straight. And Southampton left those gaps at the back, and Son is absolutely lightning, and he's so good on the ball as well. And, I mean, to be able to run at that speed and control the ball, take some doing. I think he's a fantastic player. And strange that Kane is offering the assists as well. I think it's just a really odd season. I think, and you look at Spurs' fixtures, the next 4 look good, but we saw them when they played Newcastle and they were frustrated, weren't they?
Well, I mean, they hit the bar a couple of times. I mean, they were unlucky perhaps to get. I mean, they certainly were unlucky the way they got their equaliser, Newcastle. But I mean, the Southampton game, the first half, they didn't convince me at all. Southampton could have, put the game to bed first half, and they didn't. So, I love Harry Kane. Right? I know what it's like to own Harry Kane, and I know Harry Kane is the kind of player where you look at the fixtures and you think, well, there's big returns coming, and he never delivers, or very rarely delivers when the fixture says he should, or hasn't done in the past for me. It's very hard to predict his return. So I worry about, banking on Kane because for that very reason. I mean, as you spoke on the Scoutcast very eloquently about this, and I agreed with everything you said, which was frustrating. But you think those 2 outliers, those 2 matches against United Southampton are key, aren't you?
And rare, I think, for you to agree with me so passionately.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm like I said yesterday. I'm not saying that Son and Kane are bad options. Like they're not. Like I think that if you've got them in your team, you can be happy with them. I'm not saying sell them. I'm saying if you're on a wild card, then you probably want to go with one of them because they're the informed players with good fixtures. Absolutely nothing against getting in Spurs players, but when you hear words like essential, and I've seen it a few times on the chat already. And like people kind of ripping up whole teams to bring in Spurs players, and like wild cards being played to bring in Son and Kane. I'm just thinking, let's just all chill out a little bit. Like they were awful against Everton in that first game. They've got problems. I still think they've got problems in defence, big problems with Doherty and Aurier and their centre backs and Regulion. Okay, I don't know if that's even pronounced. I just went for it.
Yeah, it was a good try.
I mean, he's there. Like it looks great going forward, but is that going to leave them more suspect at the back? So defensively, nightmare. I wonder about their creativity. Like they haven't got Eriksen anymore. They've got Lo Celso who's playing. They've got Kane dropping back deep. That is about it. I mean, they're having to literally. I don't know. I can see them having to create their own chances a lot more until Bale's back in the team or in the team.
That's the thing when they have to create their own chances rather than just playing on the break. They're not the same. They're not the same side. Yeah, so you see those games, West Ham, Burnley, Brighton. They're going to be the team who are going to be asked to do the attacking.
Exactly.
And this won't be. I just don't think they'll be as effective. I think they'll probably still win 2 out of the 3 of those. But I don't think they'll be as an effective attack. I don't think they're going to score masses of goals.
Do I think Kane and Son are going to score 18 points a game in all of those games? Absolutely not. I think I'm seeing people with the double up on Son and Kane. It's a lot of money to be putting into those two players. I know the fixtures are good, but I don't know. I think West Ham is a really tough game for them. It's going to be interesting to see. If they come through that game, the 3 or 4-0 win, then I think it could change.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My mind.
Yeah.
But to this point, I'm not freaking out too much because they have had 2 amazing games in 4.
When we talk about Spurs, we're talking about Son and Kane. But look at this. This is the expected goal involvement overperformers. So effectively, this is the top 10 players who have so far overperformed for goal involvements. And the top 2 players who have overperformed for goal involvements are Son and Kane. Son's been involved in 7 goals. And that is 4.39 more than the expected data believes he should be. Kane involved in 9 and it's 4.22. So if you put any stock in expected goal data or expected goal involvement data and you look at the deltas and you go, okay, tell me who are the most overperforming players, it says Son and Kane. And to be fair, when you look down this list, you would look at it and go, well, Calvert-Lewin, yeah, he's overperformed. Castagna, yeah, he's not going to keep it up. Rodriguez, is he going to keep up the points and goal output he's got? Probably not. Bamford certainly isn't. Costa isn't. McGinn isn't.
Hey.
So, yeah, but it's true. So you would look at all these players and you would go, well, none of them are going to keep it up. So why do we look at Son and Kane and think that? We don't, do we? We can't, surely. You can't say it's one rule for the rest and then, but Son and Kane, they're definitely going to maintain
But
it.
you think that they scored 6, was it 6 against, 6 against United? How many was it against Southampton? Was it 6 as well? Yeah,
it was 5.
Plenty of goals.
5.
5,
Yeah,
okay.
5.
So you're not going to, I mean, how many times a team's going to win
No,
5
sure.
and 6? City will do it probably 2 or 3 or 4 times a season, maybe. Spurs probably, I don't know, if you look back at the previous seasons, how many times have they hit that many goals? I think it's just an unusual season.
It would completely change my perception of a Mourinho team if Spurs continue hitting 4 or 5 goals a game. That's not what I associate with Mourinho.
But this is what puzzles me as well, because before we start the season, we looked at their fixtures and go, they've got too many games, and it's a Mourinho team. And even Spurs fans were like going, no, I'm not picking any Spurs players. And yet those 2 games, I think, have played a big part in changing people's opinions.
I started the season with Kane. I sold in game week 2.
Did you?
Yeah, well, that's another one which you haven't mentioned. I lost 22 points. Fortunately, in that game week 2, I did pretty well, so I forgot about the 22 points. But it's you just don't know from game week to game week. It doesn't seem form is going out the window. How do you think that Gareth Bale's arrival is going to affect Spurs, though?
Well, I'll let Az talk about Gareth Bale. Az gets excited at this point. Go on, Az.
I do. I'm really excited. I'm really excited for Bale. I think he is going to chip away at the points of Kane and Son, because I think it's like adding in. It's just, I mean, at the moment, what is Lucas Moura? I mean, how many points does he get? They're so reliant on Kane and Son getting them, and with Bale coming in, if he can stay fit, it's going to mean that those points are shared more across those 3. But he's going to bring a whole new. This is the thing with Spurs, is that I do think Bale is going to bring a whole new dimension to the way Spurs play, and it's going to be so interesting to see what he's like now, because I haven't seen him play properly probably since that Champions League final, and if he can capture any of that kind of, I mean, he can't have lost. I don't think he would have lost his ability. He's still going to be fast. He's still going to make things happen. He's still going to create. He's going to take set pieces. And he's not going to have lost his ability to score from those.
Yeah, but so, is he going to take a clattering and turn up next week?
Well, that is the big worry. I'm not doubting his ability to get points for any fantasy teams or score goals, but it's, if you've got him in your team, you're going to be worried every week. If he picks up a knock in training, the fear is that he won't start the next one. But I think if he's in the team, I think it makes Son and Kane. I think it makes them worse options, because I think that he's going to be hoovering up some of their points. It makes Spurs better, but I think it makes them less attractive.
Yeah, so that's the other thing we don't know. I mean, when you're ripping up your team for Son and Kane, you don't know what's going to happen when Bale comes in either. So that's why I'm more cautious about Spurs than it seems other people are. I mean, having said that, De Bruyne's injury, I'm going to fast forward to the matrix, the captain matrix, you look at this, and Son versus West Ham or Kane versus West Ham, definitely a captain candidate this week, because of De Bruyne's potential missing the Arsenal game. And you look ahead to the captains as well. And actually, when you look at City assets versus Spurs, you're more likely to captain, Spurs players than you are City players going forward. Son and Kane at Burnley, for example, then at home to Brighton, you'd consider them captaincy. So, in the short term, they would be good captains. So it's difficult to deny the fact that in the short term, it's worth dipping in for one of them. So taking a hit and getting Son and Kane, maybe, certainly a free transfer, yes, but I don't know if I would do more than that and play a wild card to get them in. And I think a lot of people have played the wild card looking at Spurs and going, yeah, this is the time to get on. And they could be right. But the trouble is, banking on anything this season is so difficult.
I think it makes it... I mean, if De Bruyne is out, the first thing I'll look at is Sterling. That's the first thing I look at, because I do always want a City player in my side. But then the attraction of going for someone like Son and banking the rest of the money and spending it elsewhere is, and Son is outscoring Sterling by a long way this season. I don't know what it is with Sterling. The other problem with City is that they haven't got a striker, so they're banking. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that in a minute. But at the minute you're banking on Sterling scoring from the false nine position.
He's back in training though. He is imminent.
Okay, we'll see that, but the issue again, and we've just been talking about players who are injury prone. Gareth Bale. You talk about Aguero in that same sentence. We just don't know, and in fact, we didn't know. We thought you were going to start the season, then from nowhere he's out again for 4 or 5 weeks. So it's not. I'm not sure what his stats are coming back from injury or just starting the season, but.
It's quite interesting when in the Spurs documentary, Mourinho's talking about players who are out of contract at the end of the season, or the contracts that are running down, and he says those players aren't the same because they don't want to pick up an injury. There's a bit less like going in to try and win tackles or to win balls and that kind of thing. So I do wonder a bit about Aguero, because if Pep senses that he isn't putting himself on the line as much as maybe he's used to, or if he is worried about picking up an injury or that kind of thing, I do wonder what his minutes are going to be like. And then you think, Jesus is the kind of successor to Aguero, so is Pep going to want someone playing every minute of every match who isn't committed? Committed is the wrong word, but you know what I mean?
It didn't matter, because the last few seasons he's been, he chops and changes. Both the forwards are always... Well, Aguero's always been open to rotation. It hasn't mattered that much to his points output. Because City scores so many goals, and so at times he has gone with Jesus, but I think by now Pep has realised that his number one striker is Aguero, and in the big games he should be playing Aguero.
I think there's something in what Az says though, but I think Aguero's got like one contract left in him, one big contract left in him, and that might play on his mind. I think that was it was an interesting insight from Mourinho, and Jesus is physically at his prime, and when I watched that Wolves game, one of the things I really noted was the fact that Jesus was really giving centre halves a clattering as well. He was really giving it back, and I just don't see Aguero doing that.
You're biased, though, Mark. We're talking about
I know. I'm useless.
No, you're not that keen on Aguero.
No, I know.
You had him for that Spurs game, which I still regret now, when he scored 4 goals.
Oh, that was great.
And I remember where I was at the time. Again, I was in Eastbourne at a wedding, and it was the morning, and. It was the early game.
Was it?
And it was one of the weeks that I didn't have him. I think he'd just come back from... He was either an international break, or there was some reason why I didn't have him, and because I was worried about him starting, I think. And he started and he scored 4 goals. And
I captained him, I think.
Yeah, I think you did. And a lot of people did, actually. It was quite high ownership, so I was gutted. But with Aguero, I've always been on Aguero. Every season I've had him at some point. And he's pretty much always done well for me, but I think the last season or two, I've been disappointed, because at times when I've captained him, he hasn't returned points, and I just seen a gradual sort of. He can't be as good as he was, and it's just a gradual decline over the years, and more injuries. But I think he's at some point this season he's going to get a hat trick. He always does. You just have to get him on him at the right time.
Yeah. I'd love to give him like a final hurrah in my team, but do
you think he's going to go then? Do you think you say it's his last season?
Yeah,
I wasn't aware of that, actually. I wasn't aware that he's.
I think he said last year and reaffirmed it that this is the last year he'll be there.
Because what he did say is that he would never leave City until they won the Champions League. So He'll be there till he's 55.
Yeah, I knew you'd get that.
Hopefully.
The thing is, as you can't have Bale and Aguero in your team. That is asking for trouble, isn't it? That's a lot of money tied up in 2 injury-prone players. So
whack Pulisic in there as well.
Oh dear, you just can't do that. Okay, we're going to look at our watch list because Az and I have been building these offline, and I thought what we'd do is just compare our 2 watch lists by position. Talk about a few players like this. So it's interesting as goalkeeper-wise, I went for Martinez, Guaita, Johnston, Fabianski. The only difference here is instead of Guaita, you've got instead of Johnston, rather, you've got Ryan in there. I mean, I think it's pretty certain that we're not going to go over 5 million for a keeper. And Martinez for me is obviously the top target. Is that how you see it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if I was wildcarding now, even with the couple of million more that Martinez is, I'd go for him. I think he's a great pick. I mean, Brighton, I've got Ryan in my own team, and I think Brighton are a team who I think are capable of clean sheets and are capable of Ryan making lots of saves, which I like, but they're not a kind of a 1-0, 2-0 team. You can see it this year. They're much more we're going to outscore you type, which is great for players like Mopé and Trossard and those kind of guys, but defensively I do worry a bit. So Ryan's there, but your spelling on some of these names, by the way, Mark.
Oh, where have I got typos in here somewhere?
Goita.
Yeah. Never mind.
Try his pronunciation. So
exactly.
I told you about Castagna.
I corrected it I've corrected it on one to come, but not this one. Yeah, ignore that.
There is a goalkeeper you're missing in there. It's the Leeds keeper, and I'm not even going to. I can't remember.
Meslier.
How do you spell it?
Meslier,
okay. I'm surprised that he's not in there. And Guaita is. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think the reason why I haven't gone for a Leeds keeper is obviously because you've got Ayling and Dallas in defence there. If you look down at the defenders, I've got Dallas in there, and it's and so's Az in there. Look, he's got Dallas and Ayling. So. Yeah, I think because they offer some attacking threat, I guess, or we've seen that, and that's why you'd look at Martinez, because out of the Villa defence, it's Mings and Cash who are probably the top targets, but they're 5 million. So, whereas Dallas and Ayling have 4.5.
I haven't seen anything from Leeds to suggest they're going to be a team that grinds out 1-0 wins. No. It's the same with Ryan. Ryan's kind of there, but not. I don't know. If I was wildcarding now, I probably wouldn't go for Ryan. But I think that's the same with Leeds. I mean, watching that City game, I can't. I mean, I didn't think I was going to see a better game all weekend, and then I watched the United Spurs and the Liverpool Villa game. But God, I mean, the way Leeds play is so exciting to watch. But if I had Meslier, I would just be heading my hands the whole match.
Well, he's busy. He's going to have plenty to do.
Is, well, true. Yeah, got a big return,
Gary Neville said in that game says there's no just bypassing the midfield. There's no midfield player here at all. Just straight from the back to the front.
Yeah.
And both sides were doing that the whole game. It was extraordinary to watch. It was like a training game.
Yeah, the thing is with Leeds, we don't know. I still can't define what we're going to get from them. The 1-0 win at Sheffield United was possibly the one, even though that's the game that's less glamorous and the result that you wouldn't talk about that result so far for Leeds. From a fantasy point of view, that's the kind of result we want from them. That kind of grind out a 1-0, clean sheet. Ayling, looked good in that game as well. Dallas did.
Bamford scoring the winner.
That's Harrison with the cross. That's the kind of fantasy performance we want from Leeds because it's predictable and there's some good value there. But you look at the City game, it's hard to make sense of it. I just don't know what Leeds give us, either as a side to invest in or a side to invest against, as in when your players are playing them, you just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
We're still struggling for data though. We've only got. Can you believe we've only had 4 game weeks? It feels like so much has happened. We're only game week 4.
It does. It's.
And I think because we're all at home and we're all spending, it all kind of everything. And there's so many more games on TV as well. It's the other thing. I don't know if you have that, but on Saturday and Sunday, I'm just kind of, my wife, I know you've spoken a few times about your family life and stuff.
Yeah.
When you've got 4 games on, and I've got all the channels, you've got 4 games on a Sunday, and you're watching it from 12 till 8. It's a little bit antisocial.
It's a marathon. It's an absolute marathon, isn't it?
But it does feel that you're seeing a lot more football than you are. I mean, you've seen a lot of football, but it's only 4 games. Over the season, it's nothing. But it feels like this season so far feels like it's already 10 weeks in. And it's probably because I've watched so many games.
Yeah, I mean that is the reason behind it. Look at my spelling of Chilwell there. I've got 3 L's at the end. It's awful. As have we lost you on sound or anything, or are you okay?
He seems to have frozen.
Yeah, he seems to have frozen there.
So our plan,
yeah,
our secret plan, right? Let's do.
That's got to go. Yeah, that's it. So Granville, what do you make of the defensive choices there? I mean, I've got Van Aanholt highlighted. I've got Robinson as well. I mean, I think people seem to be giving up on Sheffield United. I don't really understand that.
Well, it's just because they've lost all the games. I mean, and I don't think they probably haven't performed as badly as the points output shows. So I think there's still going to be a bit of value in there. Masuaku is an interesting one as well. In fact, the West Ham have really impressed me in every game I've seen. God, he's totally gone.
Yeah, he'll come back in a minute and he'll put it in a different order. Yeah,
I
mean,
okay.
I've got Masuaku, Dawson, and Creswell highlighted. I've highlighted Masuaku and Dawson because Dawson's just come in at 4-5. And I look at West Ham, and he's always a threat from set pieces. And they throw in crosses, don't they? And I think Dawson at 4-5 could be a really good option.
There's so many good options in that side, and Antonio just looks like a different player. I mean,
yeah.
What is he now? 29, 30?
Well, this is it. When we get
he looks a bit of a reborn player, particularly playing in that kind of lone role up front. I think he looks excellent, and he'd be one that I'd be looking at. He's quite cheap, 6.3. He's been. Have I gone here?
No, you're still there.
Okay, because you froze.
No, it's all right.
You did that Benny Hill sketch where he just freezes and then jumps to the next frame.
No, it's all good.
I thought you were doing that. Antonio's just for 6.3. I know he's been reclassified as a forward, so he won't get as many points as he did last season. But maybe he will because he just looks more involved and he can win. Can win penalties. I think he's really involved, and Bowen as well.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's a thing. I haven't really seen much of him until this season, and he looks like he could be playing for a better side.
Well, I've highlighted Bowen in my watch list for midfield because and it's interesting that they've got Fornell's playing as well. They're getting some talent out of him at last. I mean, he's someone that they did trust in, and finally we're seeing now what the fuss is about with him. They've got options. I mean, Souček hasn't even got amongst the goals yet either. That's the thing.
Yeah,
and that's only a matter of time. So West Ham are a side that are doing us a lot of favours this season, I think, and hopefully that continues. Lookman, I've talked about. Zaha, we've spoken about as well. Trossard, what do you make of him? Was he a player you looked at?
No, he wasn't, and I have actually considered him now. I thought he was just a little bit expensive. When I looked at him at the beginning of the season, he just looked a little bit expensive. He was, what was he, 6'5" or 6'5"? No, he's 6. He's 6, okay. So I didn't consider him, I think, because I was looking at a fifth midfielder, and 6 million is too many for a fifth midfielder, unless you're playing 3-5-2. But watching him in the games, I mean, he's so involved, and he's been really unlucky as well. I think he hit the post 3 times. He hit the woodwork 3 times against United, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually he missed a sitter. Maybe he's not quite as clinical as he should be, but at 6 million in a team that's attacking, he's pretty good. The other guy as well is Solly March, who he comes in for a bit of stick, but he's playing all the games. And he's often free on that far post, and he should have scored more than he has done so far. And he's been unlucky.
I think Lamptey's been the target, though, hasn't he? That's why. Because
he's a target. I've got Lamptey. I had him from my wild card, and I remember him last season because I had him after lockdown. And for some reason, I forgot about him. When I was doing my team, I was thinking, what 4.5? There's got to be someone good 4.5, and I overlooked him for some reason. And then I saw him the first game. I thought, God, that's a Lamptey I remember from last season, and that was one of the reasons why I ended up doing the wild card. It was just that there was just so many options, and he was one of them. And he's like a player. He's a player that he is a season keeper actually. At 4.5, if you've got him, I don't see any reason why you'd ever want to, unless he got injured.
Well, there's only one man who can speak about Lamptey, and that is Az. He's back. I didn't realise you'd arrived back in the call, so I'd left you in the green. Can you hear us loud and clear, Az?
I think that's a
no.
We're
then,
getting
isn't
a
it?
reaction. Can you hear us, Az? We've got light. Okay, so
no, you
screens
can't.
Come on.
We can see you, but
can hear something.
But
you can hear us, I think. Can you hear us, Az? Just Just nod if you can.
I think Az's microphone has gone, hasn't it?
Oh, I'm here.
There he is. There he
Can you hear me?
is.
Oh, my
Right. What happened there?
me.
You played with your microphone and it completely knocked you out of the call, didn't it?
My microphone went down, and then the whole computer turned off, and then just wouldn't turn back on. So I literally thought everything was broken, and then it started working again. So,
That is bizarre. What is going on?
Really strange. Sorry about that.
That's
I'm back.
okay. I mean, we had a test with Granville the other day, and we lost him in connection. I thought he was going to be the one.
I was thinking, firstly, it's ironic that Granvilles didn't go after that, and secondly, it's like it's planned of you two being back.
Well, that's it.
Taking the reins.
That's what we did. We did the tune. We did Fancy Island Risk. We did the rotation, the rotations. We did the fixtures, and we said that we'd start up a Scoutcast again, and we wouldn't have you on.
And I'm replaced. Yeah.
No, you're irreplaceable. And what's great is you've come back in the call, and we've gone back in exactly the right order. So that's brilliant, perfect.
Oh, there you go.
Right, I've still got my rank. I'm still holding on to my rank.
It's like, yeah, you are. You're still there with the 2-5.
That's what I wanted.
That's what I wanted. Az wanted to scramble it so he had the higher rank, because he got some lip in the chat I saw earlier about his rank, didn't he? I think so. He wanted outrageous. We're talking about midfielders now. One player I've highlighted here, Sam Maximum, because we both got him in our list, and you weren't talking about him on glowing terms at all pre-season. So what's changed? Why is he on your watch list?
I know. I just kind of like Newcastle, weirdly enough. I think, the signings they've made, Fraser and Wilson and Smaxman, I've seen enough of them to at least consider some of their attacking players. And I'm not convinced on St Maximan, even slightly. But if I'm building a watch list and I'm looking at players under 6 mil, he's on there because I'm looking for a Pereira replacement, and
you're looking for a Pereira replacement even with those fixtures.
And he's looking at the play. I mean, the thing is, I don't buy it because he scores one and lays on one, and then all of a sudden he's in your watch list. A bit fishy that, but you're only as good. You can only remember as far as the last game week. I guess that's why I played my wild card in game week 2, because I was just based it on game week 1, but it worked, and it probably does work if you think that he's going to retain form.
He's not a player that I'd bring in right now, but he's a player who I'd want to watch and see if he can get a bit more consistency, because this is exactly what it's for. If he is just a 1 every 4 match type player, then I've got no interest. But if he can actually, he's a very, very talented player. Like, he's such an exciting player to watch. So if he can actually start putting in some bit more consistent performances, then I would consider him. But yeah, he's definitely one for the future.
What's he like for bonus though? Is he player who's going to get penalised?
No, he's a dribbler, isn't he? Yeah.
So he loses the ball and then so he won't be good for bonus.
Well, I saw a clip of him in training the other day. They showed a clip where he went past about 4 defenders in training and scored. It looked incredible, like he was on, like a cheat code or something. So, I don't know, you can't get excited by training videos, otherwise we'd all be getting Bale when he comes in after the clip we saw. But
I got excited.
I know, I knew you'd be watching. I bet you watch that every night, don't you? Just on repeat. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know, Sam Maximan is a player that he should offer. I almost feel like I've betrayed him now, because I spoke ill of him after he let us down, and now I'm like thinking I can't really get him back now. But look who else I've got highlighted: Theo Walcott. Just the nostalgic reasons there, Granville. Theo Walcott.
Come on, you're mocking my Sam Maximan.
Yeah, he was one. Yeah, he was one. Did you have it? Was he in the? Yeah, he was in the Premier League with Southampton, wasn't he? When they came up. Yeah. I vaguely remember having him actually. But you loved Theo Walcott, especially when he made that move. That was another. He had one season actually when I actually got him as well. We both had him quite early on for Arsenal, and he was incredible with him and Van Persie. He was laying them on for Van Persie. Van Persie laid them on for him. He was great that season, but it's been a disappointment, hasn't he? Especially for Everton, he really didn't get amongst it and didn't really take his chance there. But
he was just all about pace, wasn't he? And once he lost that, I think he massively damaged him.
I remember that game against Croatia when he scored a hat trick. He looked like a player who was going to go somewhere.
I think there was an injury. I think was it that injury he got against Spurs? Maybe there was one. Obviously, he had a lot of injuries which didn't help. But I think there was one particular injury which he had, and then he just never. He lost that bit of pace, and he lost his ability to really. I think a lot of it is the kind of bravery, isn't it, of really wanting to take on players and really wanting to do something. Once you've had a really serious injury like that, I imagine it's quite hard to
get back to 100%.
So out of the
Always a bit
nostalgia
worried.
picks, out of the Bale back at Spurs and Walcott back at Southampton, you're not backing Walcott.
Oh, come
no.
on.
No.
Come
Fair
on.
enough. No, fair enough.
Well, maybe Bale should go back to Southampton. But there's, do you think Walcott's better than Redmond?
No, I
It's like-
don't. No, I like Redmond as a player. Although Redmond has no output. It's like every year I think this will be the year that Redmond really breaks. It's a bit like the Ward-Prowse as well at that club. Ward-Prowse is a player we always thought he's got to be a good fancy asset, and it's not quite happened for him. And Redmond's another one who just, I don't understand it. It's like he's such a lovely player to watch. He looks like he should have an end product, but it just doesn't happen for him.
Townsend's another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is
good at running with the ball and shooting, but just way off.
Yeah.
This is our watch list up front, and we spoke about Aguero already. And Granville was talking about Antonio, why you popped off there, and there's no doubt Antonio's a player that we're going to look at from game week 8. I mean, when we look at the captains later on, he's one that a lot of people are going to look for captain. I think in that.
Essential.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying that ironically. I think Antonio, if he stays around 6.3, 6.4, the points he's likely to bring and what he can do for the rest of your team, if you're downgrading someone like Jimenez to him, I just think he's just such a strong player to have in your side. And yeah, I think and we spoke about it last week. The Fulham game, that Fulham at home game, I'm not seeing anyone else who is as good as captain option as him, which it's mad to say that, but I really rate him. I just think he's so hard to play against a player like that. Just so strong,
what's
so
interesting?
quick.
What's interesting for me about the prospect of going Jimenez to Antonio in game week 8 is I could go De Bruyne to Son and get pocket 2.5. I could spend that 2.5, and then in game week 8 I get that money back by going Jimenez to Antonio. So that gives me the option to get the City player back in. So actually, the move to Son, De Bruyne to Son, it's not like I can't spend the money because I'll never be able to get a City player back, because I know coming up there's going to be that Jimenez to Antonio move. So it's actually quite nice when you look at the strategy of the next 5 or 6 game weeks. That's what Antonio gives you in game week 8. And the fixtures are good after that.
Yeah.
And West Ham are side on the
penalties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a really good option, and I'm considering him after this week with Jimenez. I'll see how Jimenez performs, but if Wolves look as sort of lackluster this week, I'm probably just going to do it.
Hold on a minute, Granville. Go back to the fixtures for Wolves. They've got Leeds away. Then they've got Newcastle and Crystal Palace at home. So you're going to do another Rodriguez, aren't you?
I don't think they're as good as you think they are. Those games.
And Wolves aren't as good as we think they are either.
But
this is what I meant. This is what I'm saying. I just think that home to Newcastle, that isn't going to be a goal fest. I say that now, and there'll probably be 5 or something like that. But if we're doing the predictions, which we used to do on the Scoutcast, that would be a game where I'd go 0-0, 1-0. There won't be too many goals in that. And I think because Newcastle are quite tight, and that's the way that Bruce sets them up. And I just don't think that Wolves are really opening up teams at the minute.
No, I think you're right. I think the problem is, I think the season is so crazy. It's dangerous to make assumptions like Wolves aren't going to be as good as they were last season. I mean, no one's saying Everton are going to win the league, Calvert-Lewin's going to win the Golden Boot, Man United are going to be in a relegation battle. At the moment, Wolves don't look good, but surely we've got to back them to change that. I don't think we can just write them off. I mean, even in a short window as well, I look at that and think there's no reason why Wolves can't be flowing again and playing decent football by the time they play Newcastle and Palace.
But
everything's changed so quickly.
But they've never been a team that wins 4 or 5-0, even against easy teams like Newcastle and Palace. Whereas West Ham are passing the test of upping their game for strong results. I mean, if you asked me at the start of the season whether I'd rather have Antonio versus Liverpool and Man City or Jimenez versus Newcastle and Palace, I mean, there's absolutely, obviously every sensible part would say go for the Wolves player, but I don't know. I don't know if Jimenez, the way Antonio is playing and the way West Ham are playing compared to Wolves and the way Man City and the way Liverpool are defending, I honestly don't think there's that much in it at the moment. And you save 2 million.
Yeah, I get it. I just think it's dangerous to make, because there you're assuming that City and Liverpool are going to defend badly in 2 weeks' time.
True.
That's the trouble. I don't think we can make any assumptions yet.
I wouldn't be making the move. I wouldn't be like, if I had a free transfer, doing Jimenez to Antonio, but I do think if you're on wildcards or you're thinking about wildcards, I think moving early on Antonio isn't a bad.
No,
isn't necessarily
agreed.
I mean, I know it looks ridiculous in playing City next game, Liverpool, but I think that both those sides are open enough for West Ham to score a goal. Whether they're going to win or not, it's irrelevant. But I think West Ham could well score against City in that game. City looked terrible at the back. I know they've sorted out, they've got a second centre back now, but at full-back position, they're just all over the place.
Yeah.
I do fancy West Ham to do something against them that game, next game week.
What, West Ham at Chelsea?
They're playing home to City. No, the following week. So they're playing Spurs, aren't they? They're playing Spurs, City, and Liverpool next 3.
Right. Yeah. Right? I mean, yeah, they've got City and Liverpool, and you think they can do something? I mean, I think they can score. I think you've got to back them to score. Whether or not they're going to defend as well as they have in the last couple of game weeks, I don't know. But I mean, like I said, West Ham have been a gift to us so far. Maybe that continues. And yeah, you're right. I think if I was wildcarding, I wouldn't think twice about Antonio if I was going 3 up front for sure. Let's look at this game week's fixtures then, and let's talk about Liverpool's defence, because it's at Everton on the opening kick-off, the 12:30. I mean, that's not a good fixture because we're going to have Salah captains, or a lot of people are going to have Salah captains, and it's never nice to start the game week with your captain. How do we call this one? Because I think it's so difficult, isn't it? And Everton are the form team, and Liverpool off the back of the 7-2. I mean, what do you reckon, Az?
Well, just in general, I think looking at these fixtures, the fact that coming off an international break, which automatically makes them a bit more hard to predict anyway, but I'm looking at these fixtures and there isn't a single result here which I think is a clear win for anyone. I mean, it's like every team here it has a tough game. Leeds, Wolves, who knows? West Brom, Burnley could go either way. Leicester, Villa, so hard to call, both in mixed form. Spurs, West Ham, who knows? Palace, Brighton, the derby match that no one cares about. Sheffield United, Fulham, basement dwellers. Newcastle United, Fernandes might not even play because of the whole Portugal COVID thing. What's going to happen in that? City, Arsenal, really tough. Chelsea, Southampton. I mean, it's so hard to all of these games is a kind of awful task to try and do, but yeah, we'll try. Anyway, let's start with Everton Liverpool, like you said.
But what you say is right, and this is why, again, I looked at the wild card and thought, I don't really want to play it going into that.
No, absolutely. And I think it's game week 5 that is the, after game week 5 is the time that I would want to play the wild card if I was going to. Cause,
between 5 and 6?
Yeah, between 5 and 6. You do notice a couple of shifts in some of the fixtures, and this one, this just looks... Yeah. This just looks awful to me to try and predict. Everton Liverpool. I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in that game. I mean, Everton have been boosted today because I think Allen and Gomez are both back in training.
That's right.
Play. They've got Richarlison, I think, fit. I assume he's fit. Calvert-Lewin, in great form.
We don't know about Rodriguez.
Yeah, Firmino and Rodriguez.
That was another reason why I ended up selling him, because I wasn't sure about this game week. There was things in the press about him turning up. He'll only be back 48 hours before the game.
I think he lands Friday morning, I read.
Okay.
And then they've got the early kickoff on Saturday. So I would be surprised if he was in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I think given the player he is and given his conditioning, I think he's done well so far to stand up to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think you're probably right and they've got some options, but I think he'll figure at some point, but he might not start. Yeah, I think that's good. I think Liverpool win this. I mean, obviously no one's going to predict a clean sheet, but I think it's interesting. I think obviously we talked about Adrian and the effect that it's going to have not having Alisson in goal, but I think what always strikes me sometimes is that we kind of presume that, Jurgen Klopp is a decent football manager, let's face it, and he's got decent players and they're European champions, world champions and so on. He's going to be looking at the defence and his goalkeeper and going, well, we've got to fix this, we've got to get better, because, he knows Alisson's going to be out for a while. So it's not like, they're going to be passive. They're not going to do things to try and stop conceding goals. And I think off the back of the 7-2, I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool are tighter. But Adrian can let one through his arms. I know, exactly. That's the problem.
Well, I was going to say, but does he change things? Because it's not new that the way Liverpool play in terms of how high they press, in terms of the fullbacks getting up the pitch, in terms of all this kind of stuff. The only real difference is now they've got a goalkeeper that can't kind of bail them out of trouble when things do go a bit wrong. And every commentator said it for years now. Like they give up chances in the hope that they can score more than they concede. I think this Everton game is a real test for them. I don't know if Liverpool do win it. I honestly don't. I think a draw is more likely. I can even see Everton winning it.
I don't. I think they're going to win 2-0. I think we're going to see. Yeah, I do.
I agree with you. I agree. I think Liverpool are going to come out the blocks. I think this will be the game because they've got a lot to. I say they've got a lot to prove, but this season Everton are flying high. Liverpool are going to be well up for this one. No, I could see them winning. Yeah, 1 or 2-0.
The goalkeepers, Pickford and Andrew.
I know. This is it. Well, yeah. Imagine it's 0-0. That'd be just like this season. It's the first 0-0 draw.
Adrian, I know Adrian let in 7, and it's not a great start. But is he that bad a keeper?
Well, apparently he is. I
think on the basis of one game, I remember seeing him again, for Liverpool before, and actually and quite a lot for West Ham. I don't think he's that bad. I don't think he's as good as Alisson, of course. And it upsets the back four, doesn't it, when you've got a different keeper there? But I think
it's
Liverpool too good to be to lose 2 games on the run.
Isn't it 2 clean sheets though in 30 appearances? Liverpool, it's pretty bad. I think
1-1.
You reckon 1-1? I go 2-0 Liverpool. Let's move on. Chelsea Southampton. There's a guy called Havertz who apparently is carrying your armband into this game. So presumably, as you're going for a home win and a comfortable one, you're going to talk about the high line, aren't you? And all that.
Doesn't like that.
Go on. Off you go.
I'm not going to go on about the high line.
You're only kidding yourself, Az. Only kidding yourself.
Digging. Well, how did you call it? Nailing my. What did you say to me earlier? Nailing my.
I said
colours to the mast.
I said that's the hill you want to die on.
Yeah, that's it. The hill I'm going to die on. Yeah, Havertz is definitely the hill I'm going to die on.
You have one of these every season. There's a player that you pick out that nobody else knows. I remember Maddison, which was quite a good pick, was a couple of seasons ago. And Pereira this season. So there's always one.
Thank you.
But I don't think Havertz is really.
I was going to say Pascal Gross, but I always get slightly.
You always bring him in, don't you?
When I mention Pascal Gross, I go, why is he mentioning Pascal Gross again?
But you're not always right, are you, Az?
I'm not, no.
And you're not right with Havertz, are you?
You throw enough dung and some will stick, it's the saying, isn't it? Well, Mark's already called me out. I wonder what's going to happen with Southampton, because I think if they do play the high line, then they're going to get thrashed. Whether Hassan Hutel kind of thinks to himself, actually, I probably shouldn't play that against Pulisic and Ziyech and Werner and Havertz, remains to be seen. But I do think this is a good game for Chelsea, and I like the fact their players are coming back, and I like the players Lampard's bought. So this to me, I am Havertz is the hill I'm going to die on. But if I don't see a good performance from Chelsea with the new boys and a good performance from Havertz in this game, then I probably will be looking elsewhere. Because he's 8.4 million. It's not that hard for me to get someone like Son. It's not that hard for me to move to someone like Grealish, who I think is going to be a bit more consistent. So, yeah, I'm on the hill, but I could jump off the hill if I really needed to. This game is important.
Do you think eventually though that Chelsea's main player is going to be Pulisic? Because what I've seen of him so far, he just looks like he looks like Hazard Mark II. He looks that good, and I do think that when he's fit and ready to go again, he'll be the player that we all jump on. And he's only, what is he, 8'5"?
8'3". He's down to 8'3".
8'3". Okay, so he's fallen. So I had him in the first week, and obviously that was a mistake because he was injured and we didn't know about it. But I do think that he's the player with the most potential, and you would. I doubt that you would pick, unless Havertz started doing things, but I doubt that you would pick him ahead of Pulisic.
No, if I was wildcarding this week, I'd go for Pulisic. Undoubtedly, I think Havertz is the kind of a general player I like, a bit like a kind of Rodriguez or a Sigurdsson from old or whatever. Like he's a player who links up play. He's going to be central to everything Chelsea do, but that isn't always the best because he drops deep, because he wins the ball back, because he plays the ball off. He's kind of like
Eriksen.
a mix of. Yeah, Eriksen's a really good example, actually. He is a kind of like an Eriksen player. He makes everything kind of tick over, but he, when you've got someone like Ali or Kane or Son or players around him, they're the ones that kind of benefit from him. And I think it's going to be Pulisic that benefits the most from having that kind of player in there, and his sole responsibility, Pulisic, is going to be getting goals for them. So I'd pick him. I would pick him every day over Havertz if I was going.
I just worry about Pulisic and Werner. I just don't know how it's going to work because of the tendency for Werner to drift out to the left. I don't, and Pulisic's going to tuck in to the middle. So they're going to be running into each other. I don't know how Lampard's going to work that one out.
Yeah,
it's not really worked. I think I did watch him closely, Werner, the game that you captained in, and I'd been tearing out my hair after the first 10 minutes. You could see that he was just all over the place, and they just haven't got a style of play yet, and the players don't know where they're supposed to be. I think eventually it'll come because some of those players are too good, but until they played sort of 10, 15 games together, I'm just not sure that I would jump on any of them other than Pulisic, because I think as an individual, he's going to be in the box and he's going to be scoring goals.
Yeah, he'll be in our teams at some point before the end of the season.
You reckon?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, he's a quality player. It's just Chelsea have got a click. But yeah, I think if Southampton were in better form, I think they could get a result. But I think I'll go a Chelsea win, but a narrow 1, 2-1, I think, for me. Let's move 4-0. Yeah, you're hoping there. It'll probably take 4 or 5-0 for Havertz to get in the points, I think. I don't.
That's mean.
I think it will. I think it will. Like, he's been getting assists for you, but they're having to score 3 or 4 goals for him to
He scores in every game that he's in the Premier League.
Yeah, for Germany and everybody. Yeah, exactly. That's true. Hat trick against what was it against Barcelona? Oh no, Barnsley. That was it. I remember that.
It's like Kolarov in other competitions. He's all right.
Kolarov, he was wonderful.
Don't mention Kolarov. That's taking us back. Talking of Kolarov, Man City, Arsenal. I don't know. Again, what are City going to do in this game against Arteta, who knows Guardiola's team inside out and his tactics inside out? If there's no De Bruyne, that could be a real struggle, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tight, and that probably means it's going to be like 6-6 or something ridiculous. But I really like what Arteta's doing. And I think this kind of game, he's shown that he can go toe to toe with the big boys and get his players playing. I mean, the signing they made on deadline day looks like he's just going to make all their defenders better options and strengthen them even more. Really strong midfielder. Exactly what Arsenal needed for about 10 years, I think, and they finally got him. So, yeah, I'm not backing on City going mad in that game like they might have done last year.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to call this one. I'm going to go a City win, obviously, but I just think that could go either way. I don't think we're going to see a lot of goals in that game. And if De Bruyne's out, a lot depends on whether De Bruyne's there, obviously, because if he's there and they haven't got a striker, don't see City scoring many goals in that game.
And that's when they really miss Silva, is when De Bruyne isn't there, because those two players were such a massive source of creativity for them.
And they've got the other Silva,
Bernardo,
who's a decent player. Bernardo Silva is a decent player. I think you consider that De Bruyne has missed quite a lot the last 2 or 3 seasons through injury, and City have always done well. So I wouldn't take it for granted that City are going to struggle without him, because they haven't in the past. They've managed to get over him missing games. But I said we're a bit further on, and players like they're all a little bit older, aren't they? I think they do need to blood Foden, and maybe he can be the player who steps up. Who knows? 6.5 or 6.4, whatever he is. He may be the option. He may be the cheap City option.
Again, I've seen a lot of people giving up on Foden as an option. He wasn't allowed to watch this earlier, but I think it's too early, isn't it, to be saying?
I don't get it. You know what you're getting with him. Like when you bought him, you knew you were going to be frustrated by him at some points and get quite big calls from other points. He's 6.5. I can't understand people that were buying him and now are getting rid of him after 2 weeks.
No, I don't know what they expect. I mean, you're not going to get returns every week from him. That's why you get a 6.5 midfielder.
Of course.
So, I mean, City and Foden will come good eventually. We know that. It's inevitable. It's just when it's going to click. I don't think we'll have enough evidence from this week to say it's happened yet, because I think Arsenal are going to provide too stern opposition. Newcastle United, something's wrong at United. Obviously, we heard the reports about Fernandes and Maguire clashing. I mean, Newcastle could do this. Newcastle could nick a win here. They've done it before against them.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I think United are going to struggle. I think, Newcastle set up well. I think Bruce has got them organised. And I wonder if Fernandes isn't feeling it, then I wonder how they're going to break them down, because they just don't seem to really have that much ability to break down teams at the moment.
Well,
I think it's going to be low scoring.
They can beat teams on the break. They've got Rashford and Greenwood, so it's not like they don't have any firepower even without. And they can probably perform without Fernandes. I am interested. I mean, I don't know what you think of Cavani. He's obviously 33-year-old. He's come in to probably just do a job. How they're going to fit him in, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe he'll just be a straight swap with Martial, who has been really disappointing this season.
Oh, don't.
You had to mention that.
And there's also, I think Igalo's actually unlucky not to have been starting the way that Martial's been playing. So I think United can still, I don't think we certainly haven't seen the best of United this season. We've seen, 3 terrible performances, but that doesn't mean that we're going to see that the next game.
No.
I am going to watch. I always watch United anyway, but Newcastle. The onus is on Newcastle as a home team, and I think that might play into United. United's struggles have actually been at home, most of them, over the last couple of seasons. So it might, if Newcastle do want to try and win that game, it will open up space for United to get in behind them. I'm
going for a home win. I think they're going to win it. I think United.
You think Newcastle are going to win it?
Yeah, I think they will.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think draw. 1-1. Every game 1-1, except Chelsea.
Sheffield United, Fulham. I think too many people have written Sheffield United off too soon as well. Then they're not going to be a bad side overnight. Yeah, teams might have worked them out a bit, but I still rate Wilder to get his team playing.
Who did you bring in this week, Mark?
Yeah, I've got Brewster. I'm not going to play him, but yeah, I've got Brewster.
You're not going to play him against Fulham?
No, I don't think I'm going to play because I don't think he's going to start. So I mean, I'll have him on the bench. I might have him first sub, but I'm not going to start him. I don't necessarily think he'll start in this game because he needs to get up to speed and conditioning. But I think Sheffield United will win, and I do think that they're not going to hit the heights of last season. But I don't think they're going to be fighting relegation either. So we'll see. Fulham definitely are going to be fighting relegation, I think, and so Sheffield United win for me. What do you think? 1-1.
Palace 1-1.
Palace Brighton. Surely you're going for the away win there, are you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Zaha hat trick? No, not going to happen.
Zaha will score, so they'll get one.
Right.
But I don't want to keep going on about. But I am excited by Brighton this year. I think we're going to lose plenty of games just like we did last year because we play a very attacking style. We've got mistakes riddled within the teams, but I've seen enough from them to think we can go at teams. We can create goals. We just need to stop conceding stupid chances to things. But I think the Palace game's quite a good one.
You need to take your chances as well.
And take the chances, absolutely. Yeah,
you had chances against not just against United, against Chelsea game. I thought they should have won that. Really, should have won it after that first half. But,
and how we lost to you lot just makes me sick. To be honest, we didn't deserve that. I mean, Everton was a tricky game and didn't go the way that I thought it would. I thought we'd give them more of a game. And I think we got a sound beating in that one, but I think we're gonna really go at Palace, and we could get done on the counter, and it could be a good game for Zaha. But I like Mopé. Yeah,
you've got him, haven't you? A lot of people loading on Mopé in the wildcard. I see, and I get it. He's on penalties, and Brighton are a stronger attacking side this year, no doubt. Spurs West Ham. I'm going West Ham win. I really think West Ham can win this game.
Wow.
I just think it's typical. It'd be typical of this season, the fact that we're all loading on Spurs, and that's been the case every week. We think we've got someone to invest in, a team that we can rely on, or players to rely on, and we get found out. And I think it could happen again. And Spurs obviously on form, but West Ham are on form. They went to Leicester 1-3-0. And I just look at the West Ham team, and I just like the shape. I like the pattern of play they've got, the way Souček and Rice alternate in midfield, and I think they've got a system that could trouble Spurs. They'll sit back, they'll be able to frustrate Spurs. I don't think Son will find the space behind the defence that he's been seeing against United and Southampton. And Antonio, I think Antonio is going to be harder to handle than Kane, to be honest. I just think at the moment Antonio's on a different level, and I don't think if Dyer's out, he's got an injury. I think Spurs will struggle with Antonio. So I'm going 2-1 West Ham.
Wow. 1-1.
Right.
Not even joking.
So there's not many goals here, is there? You don't. Well,
I'm agreeing with you actually. I think West Ham are going to turn them over. You know, after the first game, with Spurs were absolutely dire, weren't they? Against Everton. Everyone forgets about that game. You know, when it was something like a normal football game. It wasn't a game where there was like loads of space. So maybe that's the Spurs that we'll see. Mourinho Spurs.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think Son or Kane will get something. I think that Spurs will score, but I just fancy West Ham to get more. I really do. Leicester Villa, I think this is hard to call as well. A few weeks ago, with no way we'd give Villa a chance, but all of a sudden you have to, I think. I don't know. I mean, Vardy seems out of sorts. I think Villa will get something out of this as well. I'm going to go Villa win. Another away win.
1-1.
You're not. You can't say 1-1 for everything. Do you really see that as a draw?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get splinters in your backside, Raz.
I know. I feel terrible.
This is beyond even Mark Lawrenson. This really is.
It is, isn't it? I know. It is proper safe.
2-0 or 1-1. The only two scores you ever go.
I think it's just because I just don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to have to call or predict any of these games because I literally don't know what it's going to be.
Well, what about West Brom Burnley? What do you reckon for that? I mean, that's the first 0-0 draw, isn't it?
Yeah.
1-0 West Brom.
Oh, you're not going to go 1-0. Okay. Yeah, I think West Brom will win that.
1-0.
And who's going to score?
Good question. Probably centre back.
Yeah.
Hegazi, what's he doing these days? Is he still at West Brom?
Yeah, he is still there, but I don't think he's going to play. Yeah, I think West Brom will get a win here. I think Burnley, like you said earlier,
someone no one knows.
They're out of sorts.
Robson Carner or something.
The Leicester Villa game, just quickly going back to that one, like in terms of the games I'm looking at watching over the weekend, I think that could be a really, really good game because if both teams, if the Leicester that beat City and the Aston Villa that beat Liverpool turn up, I mean, what a game we're in for in that one. But if the Leicester that lost to West Ham and the Aston Villa that we're used to from last season turn up, then it's going to be rubbish. But it could be really exciting.
Yeah, well, it's yours for $14.95, as. So,
oh yeah, of course. Are you going to pay $14.95 to watch your team?
Absolutely not. No, I already pay for BT and Sky and Amazon Prime.
What happens
if giving them more money?
Let's not get onto this because we'll be here all night. But...
I'm sure there'll be a time when there's a really important game. Brighton, go for the Champions League, and they need to win the game. Would you pay $14.95?
If Brighton go for the Champions League and I've got to pay $14.95,
you'll pay any money for that.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, I want to see Grealish play that. I'm tempted to. With a Grealish in the team.
Martin, you can't. You've got to stay strong in the
I know, and I'm letting the side down. Let's round off Leeds versus Wolves. I'm going to go Wolves win. I'm going to go 2-0.
1-1.
Okay. What a surprise.
There's no way that Bamford's not going to score.
I think if Traore plays, I've said before, if Traore is playing up front, I think Wolves will get a result here and get a couple of goals.
I think the opposite. I think it's going to be quite a good game for Leeds. I think I'm going to go for 1-1, but I reckon 2-1 would be 2-1 Leeds.
It's like we said, Leeds. We just don't know what we're going to get yet, do we?
No.
It's totally. I mean, I think we've decided though this week is not a game we can predict at all. So yeah,
it makes me like this is what I was saying on the Scoutcast yesterday. Though, like, in terms of like picking a captain,
yeah,
like, you don't get many weeks like this where you can be a bit more experimental and kind of go for someone and back yourself. Like the only game I'm looking at here,
like this guy.
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah, it makes it exciting, because it's Salah and De Bruyne or Sterling every week, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's the thing, and I'm pleased to see that you're backing Havertz. I think it's a good move for you because I think that Chelsea should win that game. You'd expect them to win that game, and Havertz should be in the points. I would have said, and you're absolutely right. I look around and go, if De Bruyne is out, it's you're looking at Salah by default, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Which is fine. I don't have a problem with anyone that wants to captain Salah because he's reliable and Everton have got Pickford in goal and it's a derby and there's loads of good reasons to captain him. But also, I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if Everton did win that game or if it was sort of relatively low scoring, it's a 1-1. And I'm looking around my team and I think the chart, like the ceiling, as people talk about, I think is highest for Chelsea in that Southampton game. And it could be a tight game. It could be that Hasenhüttl says, okay, we're not going to play this ridiculous style. We're going to defend because they are capable of it, and we're going to grind out a draw or a win here, and then it's different. But if it is like I think it's going to be, which is a very open attacking game with Chelsea getting in behind, then I'm happy to have a Chelsea player in that game.
Yeah, and so you're not going to change it last minute. You're going to hold it. You're staying strong.
Well, the only player that I was thinking of changing it to was De Bruyne. And if he's a doubt, then it's going to be Havertz.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So any changes to that 11? You haven't got a bench ready to call on. You're not looking at Walker Peters, obviously. So you're going with Ryan, Alexander-Arnold, Semedo, Aylin, Salah, De Bruyne, Havertz captain, Pereira, Jimenez, Calvert-Lewin, and Mopé. The forward line looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm taking another hit, 4-point hit. I've cleaned out some deadwood. And
Who did you sell? You sold Werner and who was the
I
other
sold
forward?
Werner and 4.5 Davis.
Okay.
For Mopé and Calvert-Lewin.
And Davis went for me as well, so I went Davis to Brewster, and at the moment, Brewster's first sub. If Chilwell's out though, I may well bring James back in, and not play Podence, who probably is a doubt given the COVID situation with Wolves. So I've got McCarthy, Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, and Dina at the moment. So I've got all my defence, bar the goalkeeper playing in that opening game. Podence, Grealish, Salah, De Bruyne, Souček, who surely Souček's going to get his goal, Jimenez and Calvert-Lewin.
5 players in the opening game.
I know, it's bad, isn't it? That's the thing. Don't want that. I don't really want Salah to be my captain.
And your
that makes it work.
yeah,
I know. So, but what other captain option have I got? I look at that and think, if De Bruyne's not an option, I don't know where else to go unless I risk Jimenez or Grealish. But I don't think we're ready yet for that to look at those types of players. Not even Calvert-Lewin. Are we ready to look at Calvert-Lewin as a captain? I don't know.
Not for this one.
Well, you captained him as last week.
Yeah, I know, at home to Fulham, but
Right.
away at Leeds, as I said, what are we getting out of Leeds? We don't know.
No.
It's very difficult. But I've got a strong bench, so I'm okay in terms of if I lose anybody, but it's the captaincy and that first fixture. It's all going to be riding on that for me, which makes me uncomfortable. Granville, let's look at your team. You've got it on Salah at the moment, the captaincy. Is that going to change?
I don't know. I have been, since I've been speaking to you since 9 o'clock today, I have considered Calvert-Lewin. I don't know whether I've got the balls though. Can I use that word? Balls?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know whether I've got the bollocks to captain Calvert-Lewin.
Keep going
Because I mean, the thing is, when you think about what you thought of him at the start of the season, I think he's a semi-decent attacker, centre forward, and he'll get 10 goals this season. And now all of a sudden he's got 5 goals, or is it 6 goals? And all of a sudden he's coming to the reckoning. I might do it. I just don't. I think Salah is obviously a safer option because he's on. I mean, I had him last week as well, and he saved my game week with those 2 goals against Villa, bizarrely, and it was important. And the other thing that made my mind up was him playing that last game, because I did consider De Bruyne, which was the other option. This time he's playing the first game, isn't he? He's playing the opening game. Well, he's playing the afternoon game. So, and I am worried about ruining my game week. It's terrible, isn't it? When you have something in that first game and he doesn't perform, and you're thinking, I'm going to need to get extra out of all these games. I need to pick up points from here and points from there, especially when somebody else has got a captain in that game and they've had a flyer. It's always worrying, but I can't really see anybody else in any of the other games later on who would want a captain. I mean, I'm certainly not going to captain Jimenez or Bamford in the last game on the Monday. So I think it's one of those two. There's nobody else I can see. De Bruyne, I want to see what the verdict. I mean, I know he came off in that game, but we haven't had any word, have we?
No, and the thing is, Guardiola's not going to. He's going to be quite cagey, I imagine. I don't see him committing to whether or not he's going to play or not. So that's the trouble. I think we're still going to go into the weekend with him being a 75% doubt, and we're not going to be certain, and that's the trouble.
I do think that if he wasn't a doubt, then he'd be my captain.
Yeah.
This week. And I've still got him Vice. So I'm gonna have to think about that. I'll wait for some news on De Bruyne.
Yeah, so you're going Martinez, Alexander-Arnold, Dina, Mitchell, who obviously isn't going to play because Poet Milano's going to come back in, Salah, Fernandes, De Bruyne, Souček, Calvert-Lewin, Jimenez, and Patrick Bamford, who you're tipping to
and
score.
I think I'm probably going to save my my transfer.
You're not going to make a transfer at all?
Nice.
No.
It's
not a game week where I can really... It's an unreliable game. I mean, I'm just looking at the game week. They're playing international games. It just throws another... It's just another spanner in the works, isn't it?
Well, your team was good, Granville, and when Mitchell doesn't play, you've got Lamptey coming in, who isn't exactly a bad replacement anyway. So,
yeah. Well, you talked about Calvert-Lewin. I've got some captain data to end on here that might convince you, because looking at the options, Calvert-Lewin, Kane, Son, Salah, De Bruyne, Sterling, probably the top options that people are going to consider. And in terms of minutes per goal involvement, expected goal involvement, non-penalty, Calvert-Lewin's atop there, ahead of Kane on 88.54. And also, you look at the Liverpool defence in the second table, minutes per expected goals conceded, Liverpool down there with the lowest, 72 minutes. So expected goal every 72 minutes. So Calvert-Lewin, the top-ranked player in our table there against Liverpool, the bottom-ranked defence. There's a case. There's absolutely a case to start looking at Calvert-Lewin as a captain.
Who's Savert captain, Lee? That's the.
I didn't get Savert's captain, so we're on our own. We are absolutely. I completely forgot to message him, so we are flying solo this week, and that makes it even more difficult, doesn't it? That's the trouble, right? So we've got no one to help us this week. We're probably going to struggle. So yeah, but I mean, looking at this, I think that. It suggests that City would be the good captaincy option as well. Arsenal's defence, minutes per expected goals conceded is 73, so just ahead of Liverpool's. But the problem is, Salah and De Bruyne are both doubts at the moment. We're not certain. You know, if De Bruyne's not there, would you look at Sterling if you had him? I don't know. Yeah. It's very, very difficult. So this is a nightmare.
It would be Son for me if I had him. I think you know. Yeah. Looking around at the options and potential, I think I know you're backing West Ham, but it wouldn't surprise me too much if Spurs did win that game 3 or 4-1 or something like that. I like Son. I mean, I've got absolutely nothing against Son. I've always thought he's one of the best players in the league. You know, he's such a good fantasy option. Always scores, very reliable. So I think he would be the one that I'd go for if I had him, but I don't. So it's
I mean, I'm the same, and I would if we knew De Bruyne was out, I would consider taking a hit to get Son. Now, although I think West Ham are going to win the game, I do think Spurs will score, and I think Son's the form player, so it's difficult to. So I would, mainly because I don't really want to go into that early kick-off with Salah my captain and 5 players in that game. I just don't feel comfortable with that. So it's a strange reason not to captain Salah, but I think it's a strange week. This is a very odd week, and I think Son is an option. If I had him, I'd go with as well. But I don't know if I'm going to take a hit again. It'll be the 4th hit this season. I just don't think I can do that. So I'll see.
I bet everybody's got 3 or 4 players in that first game, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, most of us got 2 Everton players. And,
and
one Liverpool.
I've got
3 or 4.
Yeah.
I've got 4.
Yeah, and it's not a reason to like just forget logic altogether and take a hit just to get out of that. I know that, but like I said, Son is tempting there. But I don't think we're going to get definite news on De Bruyne, so I don't think it's going to be an option for me. We'll have to see what Pep gives us tomorrow in the press conference and see. But I think we're going to be back here. I mean, are we going to be back here next week off the back of another bizarre game week? Or is this game week actually going to turn out results that we expect?
I think it's going to be another crazy one. I think the results are so difficult to predict that I think we're going to see some massive wins for teams that we probably wouldn't have thought. I think my 1-1 predictions are going to be completely out of the window. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're sat here again saying we can't believe what's happened. I think it's going to continue for a while, to be honest.
Okay, well, all that remains is another technical disaster. There we go. All that remains is God. It's Granville. I blame Granville. So he turns up and it goes out the window. Now I'll click the right screen, but yeah, all that remains is for you to to talk about likes and subscribes as usual, which you like doing with the old smash it there.
I like on the note you just put smash.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, just to remind you because we forgot that first week.
You didn't have
we?
to do this back in the Scoutcast days, did you?
No,
Trying to persuade people to. So if anyone's watching this now on any platform and they haven't liked and subscribed, then shame on you. Please smash that button because I'm actually tracking it each week. It's nice to see how things are growing, and it is. So that's really nice. Also, next week we are going to start tracking the Blackbox League.
Yeah, we are.
So make sure you've joined the league. The code is V8TX2P. The code there's a link in the description, and there is also a league code on the video itself. So make sure you've joined that because similar to how I did the top 10k stats last week, we're gonna be looking to see the kind of moves people are making in that thing as well. So we've got lots of different things to compare. So yeah, join the league, smash the like, smash the subscribe, and thanks for watching.
Yes, and Granville, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Even though you are the gremlin that have caused all the technical problems, I'm blaming you. It's as smooth as silk when it's Az and myself, but as soon as you turn up, it all goes out the window. But
the only one without any technical problems, I think, this pod.
Yeah, I'm probably right.
But consider the actual quality of this podcast has just been raised. So
of course,
technical issues.
Absolutely.
I hope you're going to invite me back. Are you going to invite me back?
Of course we will. What are you talking about? But
well, the thing is, I might be doing too well.
Yeah, only when we're beating you. Yeah, exactly. There's no way we're inviting you back when you've still got six-figure rank. So if once we start beating you, you can come back when you like.
Although he does bring the kind of the quality. Like if you're watching this podcast and you look at the average rank, if it's just me and you, Mark, people are going to tune out straight away. At least Granville brings it down to a respectable million.
That is true. Let's hope that it's not going to be long before we have a rank which is regarded as respectable, but that certainly isn't the case at the moment. But it is the case for Granville. But I think Granville, it's a whole good night for me. So it is a good night for me.
A good night from me.
And a good night from me.